Let's take a look at how to make a connection between the tire and the bed. I'm going to start by making a cube, and I'm going to place this right in the center of this tire by snapping it to the shaft there. And then let's raise this one up a bit, small. So I'm going to go somewhere around this size. That should be good enough. And now going into front view and pushing it again in the center, and that will be just 0 out translate X. And now I'm gonna scale this to the side here. So I'm gonna duplicate this, Control D, and I'm gonna place it to at a 90 degree right here, 90 degrees, and let's push this. Right, now the next one is to select these two. So I'm gonna select these two and combine, because bridge works on a single object. If there are two objects, bridge wouldn't work on it. So I combined them to make them one object. Now I'm selecting both the faces on the top, and we go into modeling toolkit and click on bridge. Now for bridge, if I leave the default setting linear, even if I give some divisions, let's say give 8, it doesn't bend. So we need to change the curvature type from linear to blend. That will give you a nice corner there. So I'm gonna grab these two and click on bevel as well. I'll set this to 0.5 and segments to probably 6. I don't need to do anything on this side because I can just mirror that over. Now I need to bevel this edges though. So how do I do that is I'm going to select all the edges and then take out the one I don't want to bevel. Especially I don't want it to bevel any of these, because none of these are boundary edges, and I do not want it to bevel any of these. So that leaves me with this, and also need to get rid of these selections from here. Sometimes it's easier to select everything and then deselect the things that are not needed. Right, so all the border edges are selected. Now I'm gonna hit bevel, and that will give me this double lines. Now to duplicate this over, select it and mesh mirror, and we want it to mirror in X negative, and which is already set to X negative here in the word mode, and hit apply, and that way we get the other side as well very quick. All right, so now there's another section of this one. So I'm gonna zoom out. You see there are like two of them. One is this, and second one goes kind of really at an angle. For that one, I'm gonna create a simple cube again, and I'm gonna line this up from the right side, place it right at the center around here. Now from the front, so push this in. So here we go. So now going to the right side. Now let's increase its size. Select your object, go into component mode, which I'm going to go into perspective here, and hit 5 so I can see that object. Right click, vertex, grab all these, and now I'm going to go to right, hit 4, and now see I'm making it large, but I'm moving vertices, not scaling object altogether. Now benefit of this is, if I now go into object mode, now the pivot point stays at the same position right around here. Now I'll go into vertex mode, grab this vertex and push it back. Going back into perspective. So I'm going to grab all these vertex and pull them down just a little bit. Go into face, grab this face, and extrude this one out, something like this. Now go into face mode, and I want to select both of these sides, right and left, and let's extrude onto both sides, something like this. I wanted to add one edge loop right above this. So see, I'm having a hard time in selecting, so I'm going to go into isolate select, so that makes it easier to work with it. Multi-cut, and let's add one around here, because once we bevel those edges, then it won't let us do this, because it's not going to be polygon with the 4 edges anymore. Okay, that's why I did it in front. So we can select these two now, and same time we can select these two, that one and this one. Okay, so once all these are there, click on bevel, and then I'm gonna give some friction value and some segments. See, that gives those roundness everywhere. Okay, now I'm gonna want to bevel all the boundary edges. For that one, it's easier to select everything and then deselect the one that are not needed. So that's what I'm gonna do. Hold Control and deselect the edges. So going to front view and hold Control, deselect everything here and deselect everything here, and select this one and then hit bevel, and it's done. And now I'm going to unisolate it, and let's duplicate this over onto the other side, and that we can do by going under mesh and mirror. There you go. Now for nut and bolt, we can reuse the nut and bolt from the tire itself. To take a nut and bolt from the tire, I'm going to take tire, duplicate over, go under mesh, separate. That will separate everything. All I'm going to need is one of this bolt and this nut. Everything else in this duplicated copy I can delete. Shift select, invert selection. Now before I start placing it, let's change it a little bit so it looks a little different than the one we have at other places. So I'll make this one something like this, and same thing with this guy. Alright, I'll place it right here. Now we combine this, select these two, mesh combine, and now let's take this right where we want it to place it. Let's isolate select this one, this. It's a lot easier when we do isolate selection, and then hit isolate, and taking this one, hold V and get it as close at where you want it to place it. And now I want this to be the lower side, and I'm going to put 90 degrees. Selecting this side, I need to select that one as well, and then pushing it back to right up to there. Okay, so now that makes this one perfect fit. Now for the next one, we can grab this one. I'm going to freeze transformation and delete by type history on this, and let's duplicate Control D and move it on the side here, and mirror X negative on the word axis, apply close. You can see those shows up on the other side, and same thing onto this guy over here. So I'm going to double click on that. So I'm going to delete this on one side. So double click, delete, double click, delete. And why? Because then I can just place this where I want and then mirror over. And then checking if how much is showing up in the top part. Okay. And to push this one more in. There you go. Alright, now duplicating this on the other side, but I'm going to freeze transformation first and delete by type history, and going center. Okay, pivot point is not in the center. Modify center pivot. Now let's go into mesh and mirror. It need to be copied over, this time in X positive. There you go. And with that, we are done with the back section.